Check out this lighting. Interesting. A couple little details in the channel, more for the other channel, my Outboards, Boats and Trains. I went and bought this Solus brand prop, and my 1962 Starcraft needs a little bit of a spicing up, I think, and I decided to purchase a 15 pitch prop to replace a 13 that's on it. What's that mean? For those who don't know boats, basically water is an incompressible fluid, so when you hit things hard enough, it doesn't move. So these boat props are moving at a pretty high rate of speed. They're rotating pretty quickly. And those blades hit the water, and it's like basically screwing through a piece of wood almost, because that water doesn't move much. When it hits hard, it's pretty tough. So for every revolution with a 13 pitch prop, that screw goes 13 inches. With this prop here, for every revolution of the prop, it's going to go 15 inches instead of 13, which means at the same RPMs, I'll be going, I don't know, a few percentage points faster. I'm hoping this gets me to the 30-mile-an-hour mark on that boat. I've been kind of hunting that for a while. I was using those little Mercuries, little 20s. They easily would have got me there with the right prop, but the people who I have and share that boat with, they can't start that little Mercury, just too much compression. Love those things. I might bring them down here. So I got an electric start 25 horse Evinrude motor from the mid 80s, and it has a through the prop exhaust and a bunch of other neat features. And that chassis, this is another whole deal, that 25 horse motor chassis were used in the 30 and the 35 horse motors as well, which is why I have this prop selection, because they had to build the props for that gearbox that would handle those higher horsepowers and push boats at a higher rate of speed. And I get the benefit of that with that motor, where I wouldn't have that prop selection on even some of the older Johnson 25s or Evinrude 25s, and certainly not the Mercs. A little heavier, right? 25 horses, more than that boat needs. I could probably pull a 19 pitch on that damn thing, but that would be kind of foolish. It gets unstable somewhere around 26, 27 mile an hour. So pushing it to 30 means I'm going to probably trim the boat out to have the front actually touching the water a little bit more to get a little stability. It's going to be a little bit of fun. Anyway, let me put that off. Second bit of information, and I touched on it in, might have to go back to my last video. I don't know if I'll fold in the time, but the folks at Farmer Tech did in fact send me a replacement piston for this saw, and their point was that in all subsequent saws I should be getting that dimensionally correct piston, which is good. This has been a pretty good saw to this point in time. Well, I've got a dilemma, because I've already got an aftermarket piston in there from another company, the Lil Red Barn pop-up, and I wasn't like super happy with the way it looked, the way it was constructed. And I have to say that the performance is not really been an increase, it's about the same. But the dilemma is, do I just go put the Farmer Tech piston in there, take a gasket out and get the same compression that I got with this pop-up just using the Farmer Tech parts? Or do I actually put some time on this piston and see whether or not it shows signs of accelerated wear as the other one did? Now, it dimensionally was actually pretty close to being correct, and it's quieter, although it still rattles, but it was quieter than the one that came out of there, the piston that came out of there, which was dimensionally incorrect. If you hadn't noticed, I kind of like this saw, and that also creates a dilemma, and I don't really know how best to deal with it, because I understand why people don't particularly like Farmer Tech clone saws. I try to get out of that whole thing and just deal with it as a product you can buy, so I don't get into the emotional side of things. I just stick with the, hey, this is what I got, just the facts. So it may sound like I'm selling this saw. Well, I'm not. I'm just reporting what I'm finding. The problem is, if I find one of these things and I have it, and I report on it, and it's a favorable report, that is considered selling by the people who don't like the concept. Oh, now you're, in with them, and there's all kinds of theories and stuff people will use to try to rationalize why something that came out of the Pharmatech stable of saws might actually be good. Fact of the matter is they got some good stuff. This is one of them. I'm not selling them, I'm just reporting. Big difference. Now I've had some that weren't, and I reported that as well. I'm just going to be straight with what I see, even if it isn't something that people want to hear. Conversely, there's a lot of people who see the bang per buck value in a saw like this, and they honestly want to know whether or not this would fit their operation. And so being straight helps the people who are legitimately interested in the product. Showing my experience with the piston is, I think, vital, because it shows not only that there is an inconsistency in the early versions of these saws, but also the response I got from Pharmatech says that they recognize that as well. So they're trying to, they don't want to deal with the warranty issues, so they're trying to change their supply mechanism, whatever it is, in order to get the right piston in there. And I said before in my prior video, I couldn't care less, because I was probably going to change it up anyway. I mean, this is like a tapestry to paint on. The chassis is pretty solid from what I can tell so far. And I want to try different top ends. I might want to port something. I want to do muffler mods. I want to do all the things that a person does in the hobby to take a saw that's somewhat interesting and making it more interesting. The fact that it came from Pharmatech, well, I'm blessed with that. Thank you very much. I didn't have to spend $1,500. I got it, for a whole lot less, and so can you. And for a hobby saw, that's not a detraction, it's a positive. And I guess one of the larger, more famous YouTube channels just kind of put out a video which really hit home for me about, as soon as you do a YouTube channel, you've got a target on your back if you're being honest. You can't really win, so don't fall into the negative side of it, just report the positive, and that's where I'm going to go with these things. I'm not going to let the ones that hate these things, or for whatever reason, legitimate or not, distract from the honesty of my reporting, I guess is what it is. Funny thing is, I've had to change less parts on this than I did on the 660s by quite a large margin. I didn't have to change up things like bar nuts and bar studs and, chain brake parts and trigger parts and all the stuff that I had to change on the 660s. The only thing I had to change on this so far is the piston. Alright, subject of the day is, one of the things I wanted to do is try out one of these full wrap handles. This is an OEM full wrap handle kit for like 50 bucks. You know what I'm saying? Why buy aftermarket when you can get the real deal for that kind of money? And it's actually pretty light. So one of the reasons in the past I stayed away from the full wraps was because I couldn't get down to the ground, and also that was adding weight. Well, this doesn't add enough weight to matter. And the kind of work that this is going to do, I'm going to do some milling and bucking up some very, very large trees. And I might have to hold the saw at a couple of odd angles because of the work it's going to do. The full wrap handle actually makes sense. And that's the point. Whereas in a lot of the other work I've done, a lot of the felling, where I'm felling logs, where I have to get real close to the ground, I had done a video a while back where in that situation the full wrap handle was actually a detraction. It wasn't something that was a big benefit. So, different situation, different tasks, different tools, configuration might make some sense. So what we're going to do now is, let me see if I can figure out how to take off the one handle and put the other one on. And the other thing that came with the Holzfforma kit is a bunch of stuff. I'm not quite sure I understand exactly why, but I don't know what that's for. Genuine Holzfforma. Came with these really cool bucking spikes, right? And I don't know if anybody remembers the Jonathan Winters ads on hefty Oh man. But you know, the ones that are on there, they got the same darn thickness and they're not bending. So do I bother changing them out? Or do I just keep these? Let me just keep these for now. Let me just focus on the handle because the bucking spikes that came on this saw, yet again, yeah, they're the same thickness. I'm not really buying anything. A little bit bigger. You know, I'm actually going to leave these alone for two reasons. The stock one, or the Husqvarna OEM ones are actually quite a bit bigger. And what I'm finding is these are big enough. So while these might be better for West Coast wood, which is what they're designed for with a big heavy bark, I don't have that big heavy bark. So I think I'm going to leave these off for now. But I'm going to note that the thickness of the material is the same as the ones that came on the Holzfforma, but the length of the spike on these is quite a bit longer, by about 3/4 of an inch. So you guys out west, that 50 bucks is probably money well spent. Let me just get the handle on for today, and then I'm going to run it with the handle on a job. I actually have a job today to do. And I look at these inserts. Look at that. That's so cool. So let me go back to what I was doing. So I've already decided to put another $50 into a full wrap. This little guard, I don't have the screws, otherwise I'd put this on too. I think that's a legitimate upgrade. So you could say that this is a cosmetic upgrade. I'm hoping that it allows me to operate a little bit more freely in unusual positions. And, boy, that doesn't sound good on a family channel, does it? Let me just take a couple of swipes on these and just, I was running it before in ash. You know, I did a video, but I also ran it for a little while afterwards. Find the gold link right there. And I'm just going to do a couple of swipes. And there's my G288, and I'm sure there's a bunch of people who want to know how come that one kind of got punted to the side for the time being. And I think it falls down into a couple of very simple things. The G395 vibrates quite a bit less, makes quite a bit more power, and it is heavier, but not significantly to the point where I'd put it down and pick up the G288. And I think another one is my standard Husky OEM 281 actually smokes that saw. So you added all those things up, and it's kind of like that emotional what I want to spend my time with. And to me, the 395 variant is definitely a chassis to invest in. It's going to get quite a bit of return. And this one here, I believe, has got a lot of potential. I'll eventually get back to it. But the kind of things I have to solve are going to be tough. I mean, how do I beat the vibration issue? And the 395 has a quad port cylinder, a much more modern design, so there's a lot more potential in that cylinder. And this one has just the two transfers, kind of like the old Jonsered did. So, add it all up, this one got punted for a little while. Okay, so before I go do a job, there's a couple things. I want to make sure my equipment's set up properly. And in order to do that, I want to just see if it'll start and run, obviously, but I also want to see if that chain sharpening is too aggressive for me to bore cut. If I'm out in my woods, that's one thing. But if I'm actually to go to somebody else's place, I think I'd mentioned this once before, I want to make sure that my system is in place. I'm using the same gas, same oil, same bar oil.
The saw hasn't been changed since the last time I used it. I know it's stable, and the sharpening isn't too aggressive, things like that. And PPEs, I'll have chaps on, trust me, before I cut anything on somebody else's place. So I want as stable a system, as proven a system as possible, also PPEs, because you got to think about insurance. So I guess the first thing is, can I get this started? The problem I've had with this saw is pretty easy to over choke it, and I'm just getting old. I don't have the arm strength I once had to get the snap that this saw needs in order to get it fired. So I'm just going to pull it maybe 3 or 4 times, and then I'm going to make sure that choke is in, but it's still high idle. A younger man, a little bit stronger, wouldn't have to do all that. So let's just check the chain grind out on this rod right here and make sure it's not too snatchy. Mr. Ray, you knew who you are, so we're adding this to our repertoire on the video. I always kind of did it, but I never really put it on video. Now I have a dilemma because I did sharpen that chain and it now is a little bit too grabby. So I have to know that before I start doing bore cuts. That's going to come right out at me. So maybe I'm going to end up having to use my my 365 in order to do the bore cuts. See what I'm saying? That thing wanted to jump at you. So that is not a successful chain grind. And I had it right before. So, boy. Yep, this is a saw. It's going to get the call. Alright, I put the chain and bar that works, you know, in terms of not being too grabby. Took it off the 565 and put it on the 395 because I want to run that saw. And making sure that I have the tools I need to swap out a chain if I need to. I need that 1/2-inch wrench to get into that nut right there. So this system is worked out before I get in the truck and go. Because when you get to a job site, you know, they're paying you to cut trees, not to tell them how smart you are in your chain selection and how you got your tooth ground and all that crap. They want to see stuff hit the ground. So I like to make sure that before I put the car in drive and head towards there, I've got a system worked out. I've got my 2165 set up in the back right there, ready to go. The 565 for a backup, and then I've got the 28-inch bar with the proper chain on the G395 because I want that to be the primary saw, having the 365 based 2165 as a backup, and then if I need a long bar saw again, I'll go back to the 565 running the bar that actually came off that saw. So anyway, that's what I do. So what we have here is a dying ash, and this one wants to go right there, which is not good. I want to see if I can lay it out that direction more out in the grass. Just means probably pulling off this big old branch right here. I think I can make it go where I want. This one right here, it wants to go right there. So I got to make it go somewhere it doesn't want to go. But check this out. Look at all that wire in that tree.
Right where that pipe is, there's a concrete thing right there. Covers the sector, so
Either I
can
drop
drop-
it right up the driveway.
anything this way, you put beyond that can be fine. That's the only we'd have to watch for it, I know.
Of course, it literally wants to go exactly there.
Well, that's why I thought we leave a little weed on this side.
I think I can make it go a little more up the driveway, Doug. So
Well,
do you
not
have
that-
any problem, I'm going to leave those branches on except for the ones that hit the fence. You got any problem dragging them up to my firewood site?
Not these?
Yeah.
No, all the limb wood I was just gonna stack there, but these big ones I'll take up on my tractor.
Yeah. All right.
Whatever you want for the big ones, you can have the big ones.
Let me see if I can just do this. Drop it right that way.
All right.
Ah.